let's do something here. It's kind of bright here to close the blind. See if I can get a better picture of myself. All right. Hello, good morning. I was trying to see if I could get a better picture of myself. One moment. It seems dark on my screen. Okay, seems pretty fuzzy on my screen, but I'm going to just go ahead and get into this, into chapter 2 on There Is More. And I'm talking about a cup of hope, resting in the promise of God's promises. So a cup of hope. And so resting in the promises of God's faithfulness, and there is more. So I want to talk about, what does it mean to have hope? 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 Now, we're going to be reading out of King James Version, and it's 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 to 4. We're going to read that, and I'm going to be reading this out of 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 through 4, and a future hope. There's a future hope. And so it says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, which according to his abundant mercy hath begotten us again unto a lively hope by the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled, and that fadeth not away, reserved in heaven for you." And so let's talk about this hope that Emilie is talking about. And she said, there is more. And she goes on to say, just what do I mean when I say I have hope, or that I want to find it? The way I see it, hope is really several different things go together. So let's talk about that hope. So for one thing, hope is a feeling, having hope. I feel that I have hope, or I feel that I don't have hope. Hope is a feeling. It's a sense of buoyant optimism. And that means being able to be optimistic about the future of what's going to happen in your life, or even in the lives of your family members or your children. Even if you have a job and you're hopeful about your job, you're hopeful that you're going to, have better finances. You're hopeful that things are going to get better. You're hopeful that your health is going to get better. Whatever you may be going through, it's a sense of buoyant optimism, a sense that everything's going to be all right in the time to come. That's having hope. A feeling of hope is what puts a spring in your step as you step towards the future. And sometimes you might see people where they are walking a little faster, they got a little skip, a spring in their step towards the future. And it gives you energy and momentum, makes you want to accomplish a lot. It's a wonderful thing to feel hopeful. We need that shot of energy that comes with hopeful emotions. So, do you have hopeful emotions? When you're dealing with your emotions, do you feel like you're hopeful, or do you feel a lack of hope when you're dealing with your emotions? Because we all have emotions, and we all have to deal with our emotions. And so it's a wonderful thing to feel hopeful. Wonderful thing. But the trouble with hopeful feelings, of course, is that they are fickle. Hormones can change them, and the weather can affect them. And like there are times that when it comes to the weather, you might be feeling good, and then you may have like a bout of arthritis, and then all of a sudden the weather changes, and now you're feeling down and saying, I thought I was past this, I was feeling good, and now I'm not feeling as good as I was. And also, your hormones can go up and down, which can also change how you feel about the future, being hopeful or not being hopeful. And so they can be based on the false beliefs and false realities. And we know that there's a lot of false beliefs out in society. In this world, people put out a lot of false beliefs and a lot of false realities. And some people say, well, that's my reality, because that's my truth. But it could be a false reality. It could be a false truth. And we see that a lot today. And we see a lot of people walking around in false beliefs. They have these false beliefs about what really is going on. and they can abandon you. So if hope is just an emotion, you can't really depend on it, right? If it's only an emotion, you cannot depend on hope, because hope, if it's just an emotion, it's going to be fickle, and it's going to be up and down, and it's going to be changed like the weather, and changed like, your hormones, because as women, we do have hormonal changes. And so if our hope is based on those things, then guess what? We are going to walk around constantly in a state of confusion and disarray, because we are going to be hopeful one minute and not hopeful the next minute. So we don't want to depend on hope as an emotion. It's great to have, but you probably won't always have it if we're dependent on hope as an emotion. So you need more than this hopeful feelings to keep you going, right? And there is more she talks about. Emilie Barnes talks more about this, and she says, hope, you see, is also a belief. See, hope is a belief. Either you believe it or you don't. It's an ideal or conviction that life is eventually going to get better. It's going to be better. It's going to get better, even in the short run or the long run. Okay? And so hopeful beliefs can be a powerful source of endurance and strength. Hope, human beings can endure a lot if they believe there is hope for a better tomorrow. We have to have hope that there is a better tomorrow. But the trouble with hopeful beliefs is that different people believe different. And that's very true. And opposite hopeful things. And they can't all be true, because different people believe different things about hope. Some people don't believe there's a hope in the future, and some people believe there is. And so Christians, of course, believe that Christ will come again at the end of history. We believe that there is life beyond the grave for those who trust in Christ. And we're talking about eternal salvation. And we believe that God is in charge of our circumstances, and that those circumstances are working together for good. And God says that he works together for good according to his will and his purpose, right? And our beliefs are obviously an important source of hope. And so, but some people believe that technology is the hope that will inevitably move the world towards a brighter future. See, if we're believing in technology, we've already seen that our computers have shut down, even at work, when the main source of where our main source that drives our technology on our jobs, that's shut down, and we have to go to downtime. Am I correct? I think most of you will agree. We cannot also trust in technology. We have to trust in God. And that hope comes from Jesus Christ, because technology has failed us. And if you see how they keep on changing technology to keep up with the times, they change technology and they do a lot of upgrades. And sometimes those upgrades causes problems. And we know that because Microsoft sometimes when they do their upgrades, it can cause problems to our computers. It can cause problems on our cell phones with Apple and all of that with the technology. So we see that technology has to continue to change. But let me say something about God. God does not change. His undying love doesn't change. His ever unchanging hand doesn't change. And so that's what's good about knowing God and having a relationship with Christ, because he doesn't change, but technology does. And some believe that a certain social or economic program will make life better for everyone. Let me say that they have these programs out here. I wasn't able to get over to that. The one Magnolia House that I wanted to do an update on, to find out how were they going to help people after the money ran out. How were they going to help people to make changes? Well, some people believe that a certain social economic program will make life better. Well, guess what? When the money runs out and the programs dry up, do you still have hope after that? See, that's the thing. You have got to put your trust in God and not in systems, not in stuff, not in social or economic programs or technology, but your trust in God. See, the followers of the Heaven's Gate cult that made the news a few years back believe that if they committed suicide, a spaceship would come and take their souls to a better place. That's what they believe. That's what they believe. But see, no spaceship is going to take your soul to a better place. No spaceship is going to do that. So obviously, it's important to have beliefs that are not just hopeful, but also true. We have to have beliefs that are true, not these false realities. As I said, these false ideals and false realities. We have to have beliefs that are true. And they've got to be more than just ideals we hold in our heads, more than just ideals we hold in our heads, because human thought processes are notoriously fickle and unreliable, totally fickle and unreliable. So hope has to go deeper. It has to go deeper than the thought level if we're going to trust it. It has to go deeper. We need more than just belief if we're going to live with hope. And again, there is more. See, Emilie says, I have come to believe there is hope that lives deep within the human soul, deeper than feelings, deeper than thought, deeper than feelings, deeper than thought. She says it's a part of the way we were created, perhaps even a part of our DNA. History is full of stories of people who somehow managed to hold on to a stubborn hope long after they have had stopped feeling hopeful. Even after their conscious minds had stopped functioning well, they still held on to a stubborn hope. A stubborn hope. But she goes on and she says, I think of Beck Weathers, the Texan physician who almost died during an expedition to Mount Everest. Lost in a blizzard that killed the leader of his expedition, twice left for dead by his fellow climbers, Dr. Weathers somehow managed to get to his feet and stumble back down the mountain into the camp. Some kind of hope buried deep inside him kept him putting one foot in front of the other. We have to have hope that we can be able to get out of bed and face another day, having hope. And so she says she discovered that kind of hope inside my own heart during the past few years when she struggled with cancer. It's a will to live, a deep desire to go forward that has grown stronger as my body grows weaker. It's a hope that's more persistent than emotion. Wow, absolutely. More basic than belief. It's in my heart and my bones and sinews and capillaries. It's powerful and it's real. But even this deep gut level hope is not the most dependable source of hope, for it will eventually end in death. It will inevitably be tainted with evil. For that is the unfortunate fate of all good things on this fallen earth. And that is why our hopeful feelings, our hopeful impulses, even our hopeful beliefs are not enough. Our hope must go deeper than gut level instinct, or it just isn't enough. There has to be more. And there is more. See, the good news is that such a deep, dependable hope is ours for the taking. We just have to grab a hold of that hope. See, it's more than a feeling or a thought or an impulse. Though it affects the way we feel and the way we believe and the persons we are, even at the cell level. This hope is a person, the person of Jesus Christ. It is his death and resurrection. It's his living presence in our lives and our world that makes hope the final answer to all the questions life can ask us. See, Jesus is indeed the hope of the world. No ifs and or buts about it. He is the hope of the world. And so here in a nutshell is the hope that I pray you'll find. The feeling of hope, a positive emotion about the future. The belief of hope, the understanding that there is a worthwhile future to feel positive about. The impulse of hope, the stubborn need to move forward even when hopeful things fade and hopeful beliefs appear doubtful. And then there's the relationship of hope, a restful, energizing connection with the one who is the hope of the world. So there's four. And I'm going to give them to you again. The feeling of hope. The feeling of hope. which is a positive emotion about the future. And then there is the belief of hope, understanding that there is a worthwhile future to feel positive about, having a belief about hope to feel positive. Okay, not negative, but positive. And then the impulsive hope, number three. Number three, that impulsive hope, that stubborn need to move forward, even when hopeful things fade and hopeful beliefs appear doubtful. You still have to move forward. That's the impulsive hope. And then four, the relationship of hope, a restful, energizing connection with the one who is the hope of the world. And the hope of the world is Jesus Christ. That's the hope of the world. Because if we just rely on emotions for our hope, then they're fickle and our hormones, and they can change anytime. One day you can believe hope, and the next minute you're hopeless. So we want to not believe in those things, but we want to believe in the hope in Jesus Christ. And so without Christ, there will always be a but attached to my hope. Without Christ. And I start with me, because without Christ, there's always going to be a but. But with Christ, hope always has the last word. With Christ, hope always has the last word. And so I have read to you already 1 Peter 1, 3 through 4. But it says, in his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade, kept in heaven for you. And then Nancy Pickering tells us one truth about God, which I continue to discover anew, is that he has more for us than we can imagine. God has more for us than we can imagine. He can bless us beyond our imagination, if you believe that. And his plans far exceed our plans. Absolutely. And his grace makes possible so much more than we can envision. That is very true, is what Nancy Pickering in her quote, what she's saying. And then you have Anonymous. Life with Christ is an endless hope. Without him, a hopeless end. So that is chapter 2 out of Emilie Barnes' book, There Is More. And so I want to share this with you once a week, that you can meditate on a cup of hope. It's resting in the promise of God's faithfulness. And once a week, sharing this book so that you can meditate on it. You can go back and study the scriptures on it, and you can pray about it. And may you be inspired each week as we cover a cup of hope, resting in the promise of God's faithfulness. There is 29 chapters in this book about hope. And I pray that someone will be inspired and that someone will be helped. And if you are going around feeling hopeless, there is hope in Jesus Christ. If that is your belief, there is hope in Jesus Christ. And so I pray someone will share this video. Someone will be able to help someone else that is, right now going through some unbelief, or, don't understand, their emotions is in the way, their hormones is changing, they have become fickle. But God has a hope for us, and he has a future for us, and he wants the best for us, and he knows the plans for us. And so a cup of hope. And so once a week, I would like to come on and continue to share this book. And this is the book right here, A Cup of Hope by Emilie Barnes. And so God bless you all on today. Peace out.